Welcome to AFMC TV. I'm Robin Linder.
The goal of that is to maximize people's quality of life, right?
You want to make sure that your housing is affordable in your community.
We have to think about vaccines in a way that we haven't thought about them before.
I had a lot of the legislative adults to were very creative.
Down on the floor and play with their kids.
AFMC TV. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Welcome to AFMC TV. I'm Robin Ledbetter. Thank you for joining us. Today I have with me Dr. Chad Rodgers. He is a pediatrician and the CMO of AFMC. Dr. Rodgers, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, good to be here with you again.
So we're talking about screen time and that versus real time. From your perspective, how has screen time changed childhood over, let's say, the past decade?
Oh, I think if you could pick one thing that has probably impacted childhood the most, it would probably be the use of screen time and social media. I think it's impacted all of our lives and is just so pervasive in every area of our life, at work and at school and at home. Even when we're out having fun and traveling, we're kind of using our screens or locked in to our phones. So it's really become a big part of our life. And it's also become one of the big predictors of health, not just physical health, but mental health as well.
And when we say healthy screen time boundaries, what does that mean for families?
Yeah, so I think that we all need to kind of sort of look at our social media use and our screen time use and sort of begin to think about how it's impacting our health and how it's impacting our relationships with others, including especially our family. And so beginning to kind of look at what we need to do to kind of put some boundaries or parameters around how we utilize it for ourselves individually, but also to kind of help mentor and kind of show our kids. I think this generation is kind of figuring out, has been working on trying to figure out how to use screen time and how to use our phones. I mean, again, it's become such a big part of our life. And with that has come a lot of lessons learned, sort of the good and the bad. And so I think, beginning to think about how we can address that, set some boundaries, model some good habits for ourselves and for our children will be really beneficial to overall health.
And how does screen use impact emotional and social development?
Yeah, so, it depends on how much time people are spending on their screen. So, it's sort of this crowd out effect. So how is screen time beginning to affect your relationships with others? We know that human connection is extremely important to overall health. And that really, we've kind of lost a lot of that. And some of that was kind of also kind of part of the pandemic. We were kind of forced in and did spend more time on screens and we didn't spend much time with people. But during that time, we learned a lot about the importance of human connection and sort of the impact that it has and the importance that it plays in all of our lives. So, really beginning to put some of that emphasis on that face-to-face time that we have with others and trying to kind of reduce our screen time.
Are there specific warning signs parents should watch for that suggest screen time is becoming unhealthy?
Right. So I think it's mostly, kind of looking at behaviors. So kind of worrisome behaviors, which sometimes can be attributed to a lot of things, but it is sort of a time to sort of raise a flag and kind of evaluate how much screen time. So maybe it's just emotional regulation in younger children. So temper tantrums or just getting frustrated or upset easily, maybe being very hyperactive and just kind of turned up all the time. And then our older kids, especially our teenagers, if they're getting more withdrawn and more depressed, those are kind of red flags to kind of begin to watch for, especially if they're ready to reduce their kind of face-to-face, interpersonal interactions more and more, and sort of drawing out. Now, teenagers do that to some extent, just by nature of being teenagers. But I think, if you're seeing school grades go down, you're seeing relationships sort of fall apart, you're seeing things that they used to like to do that they're no longer involved with, that would probably increase some concerns and some things that you might see.
And is all screen time equal? Are there some types of digital engagement better than others?
Well, like I said, this is kind of part of all our lives. Like, I don't know how I would work nowadays without my phone, So, and it has become such a part of school. And so, I think that there is, good quality digital material out there. There are things that kind of promote learning for young children. There are school lessons that children do. A lot of us read from our iPads and our iPhones. So, there is good digital use. It helps us plan our day. It helps us, connect with other people, sometimes in other ways. It also helps, kids that are maybe kind of isolated in certain communities kind of reach out and connect with other teenagers with common issues or problems, like if you have like cystic fibrosis, and you don't know many kids with cystic fibrosis. So that might be a good way in which technology is used. But there's also like the bad technology. We know there's a lot of unsafe stuff out there on the internet, but there's a lot of stuff that's kind of quick videos and very loud and kind of gives these positive rewards when you kind of continue to watch, and that you just become very habit forming and kind of become more kind of get people more revved up, that it is kind of calming. So I think that those are the things, the elements that you kind of look for. So there is the good media use, and there's the poor media use, and so it takes a little while sometimes to distinguish between the two, because even just like work, sometimes work can become toxic if you don't set boundaries with it. So.
And what are age-appropriate screen time guidelines for ages? Is it toddlers, elementary age kids, and teens? Does it vary?
It does vary. So, very young children, especially kids under 2, I would almost say no screen time. Any screen time is probably, 20 or 30 minutes starting at about 18 months. But it's also a good time to begin to set, boundaries with kids. So if they're not using 6 hours of media time when they get to be 5 or 6, then they're not gonna. You don't have to kind of ratchet it back. So really, kind of beginning of life, it's really important because there's so much going on developmental wise for those kids under 2. Your kind of younger children from 2 to kind of junior high, trying to limit that to 1 or 2 hours a day. So having kind of structured time. Where what they're watching. And then if you're older teens, probably 2 or 3 hours a day, kind of depends on what they're using it for. If they're, obviously it's part of their schoolwork. So, that doesn't really count as much as sort of their game time or, those sort of things, watching videos. But, even for teenagers, probably 2 hours of less of unstructured, screen time is probably not helpful. And that also includes us, like we need to really think about how much time we're using our phones as adults during the day to model that behavior to kids. So I think in general, you think 2 hours or less. And then for really young children, there's probably not much benefit to any social media. I'm sorry, not social media, but they're not on Facebook, hopefully. But, as far as screen time, watching videos and games, and even even things that are kind of marketed as learning tools for young children, probably are not that beneficial and under age 2.
And what role does the healthcare provider play in helping families navigate this?
Yeah, for especially for young parents, they don't know a world without this technology. So, there's something that they may not be aware of themselves, or sort of the impact that it's having on their children. So I think that the healthcare provider, healthcare community has a real opportunity to kind of help people identify when use is troublesome and sort of how they can address it and why it's sort of can be detrimental. I mean, certainly we all see the benefits of being connected with technology, but sometimes the more detrimental side is not really obvious until there's a problem. So I think there's a real good opportunity for healthcare providers, especially pediatric providers, to talk with families, to give them some guidance and instruction. And also, like parents need to be interacting with their children and not on their phones. So there's a real opportunity there to kind of help those parents prioritize their time on the phone and think about what they can be doing with their children when they're not on the phone.
Mm-hmm. And so face-to-face interactions are critical for child development.
Right. We've known for decades the importance of face-to-face interaction, especially in those first couple of years of life. It's sort of that what they call serve and return. When you're talking to a baby and then they respond, those are really important interactions to have that kind of help with brain development, help with connections in the brain kind of get stronger. And so they're so important in those formative years, especially when kids are doing a whole lot of brain development. We also see that it's that face-to-face interpersonal interaction that kind of reinforces memory and learning and thinking in the brain. So for your older children, so it doesn't become a substitute. And for our teenagers, it doesn't, take the place of social interaction. So teenagers are still doing a lot of brain development as well. And so they need to be exercising and building those brains as well. And there's really no replacement for that face-to-face kind of social interaction. Screen times just can't seem to the research doesn't show that they are able to meet those needs.
Mm-hmm. So for your patients, what are some realistic ways that families can encourage more real-world play and connection?
Yeah, I think it kind of becomes sort of part of your daily routine. So a lot of people are like, well, they really love their screen. They don't like to do anything else. Well, it's not really a good reason not to introduce something. I mean, family time is really important. Playtime is really important. So, sort of making that part of your daily routine. So, encouraging some outside play, maybe trying to plan something, and even a recurring activity. Having family night where you play games, sitting at the dinner table and having meals together and turning off the phones are all important things to kind of try to work into your daily routine. I wouldn't do like big sweeping changes at first. I would just kind of pick one or two times during the day where that everybody could put their phones down and turn it off. And especially when it gets close to bedtime and, kind of do that as a family so that it's not just seen as punishment or reward, but it's just kind of part of the daily routine. But, really allowing them that screen time, maybe talking with the kids about what time of the day is best for them to get out and play and what time of the day is best for them to use their screens for playing a game or for reading or whatever activity it is that they want to do. The other thing is that, sometimes those screens are part of the activity. So making films or movies with the phone, doing some art with the phone. So there's times when, it kind of gets a little incorporated in, but kind of talking with kids and kind of deciding with them. So you're not necessarily forcing something on them, but you're kind of encouraging and showing that there's other alternatives than just screen time.
And before we go, where can parents, even healthcare providers, go for trusted resources and guidance on digital health?
Yeah, the one that I probably refer people most to is the American Academy of Pediatrics has a website called healthychildren.org. It's what I kind of recommend the most. They have really nice resources for families, but they have a family media kit. And so you can use this tool in order to kind of help your family kind of identify where they're using screen time a lot, kind of how they're going to plan, what the limits are going to be, how to use screen time in a productive way by, sitting and actually maybe spending some time with your child or teenager, on the internet, searching for things, talking about what they're watching or seeing or what they're looking for, and kind of showing them some appropriate ways to use it. But also, creating some media-free zones, like the dinner table is a place where nobody uses their phone unless it's an emergency. An hour before bedtime is when we all turn down or power down or put up our phones. Some kind of things that the family looks at, agrees upon. Of course, that changes with time depending on the age of the child, but it's a really useful toolkit. There's other things that are out there. A lot of children's hospitals, if you go to their websites, have some things because this is such a kind of pervasive issue to kind of look at. The Mayo Clinic has good resources. The American Association of Child and Adolescent Psychology has some good resources as well. So there are good resources out there available on the internet, or you may just want to ask your pediatric provider or even your educator. So, teachers at school often can give good guidance about that and what resources, and also kind of give you some things that, like, your daycare provider may be a really good source of things to ask about. What else does my child enjoy other than being on screen time? Because they spend most of their day there, and hopefully they're not on screens. So that's another really good resource.
Well, Dr. Rodgers, thank you so much for sharing this today. We appreciate you being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And that's it for this episode of AFMC TV. Thanks for watching and have a great day.